Hi everyone, welcome to today's broadcast for the AdSense 10 Challenge. My name is Lori, I'm a strategist here at Google, and I'll be your host for today. So, this week we're focusing specifically on user experience and testing what works best. I thought it'd be helpful to bring in some of our guests from the community who have a lot of background history in A/B testing. We're going to learn a little bit about their experiences, hear their thoughts on best practices and strategy, and also hear some real examples. With that in mind, let's actually go around the room and meet the guests we have with us today. Let's start with Katie. Can you tell us your name, your relationship with AdSense, and what brought you here today? Katie?
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Katie Zanidou. I'm a user experience researcher based in London, and my role is to talk to publishers on a daily basis and gather feedback in terms of how they use the AdSense product. The whole point of that is to understand what are the needs of the publishers, what are their expectations from AdSense, and make sure that our developers and our designers know all about that so we can make our product even better.
Great. Thanks, Katie. And some of you may recognize our next guest from yesterday's presentation, but just in case, Adam, can you give us a brief intro?
Sure. Yeah, my name's Adam Cuello, and I am a strategic partner manager on AdSense. And so I help AdSense publishers grow their business through optimizations, many of which include A/B testing. And yeah, I'm here today to share some of that experience with the community. So I'm very excited to be here.
Thanks, Adam. Okay, so if you tuned in to yesterday's presentation, you might notice that we're one guest short today. Unfortunately, Jake couldn't make it, but not to worry, we still have a lot of good content planned and a lot of great questions. So with that in mind, let's actually dig in. So yesterday, Adam, you provided a great overview of A/B testing, and I thought it'd be helpful to kind of dive in and figure out those real-world examples of how our publishers are applying the concepts in order to help everyone tuning in really understand and let those concepts sink in. So for my first question, what do you think when I ask, when should publishers start thinking about A/B testing? Adam?
Absolutely. You know, as I mentioned yesterday and kind of harped on quite a bit, publishers should always be thinking about testing and thinking of ways to improve their site. And A/B testing is just a really simple and understandable way to test elements on your page to improve the performance toward a desired action. So I'd say you should always be thinking about A/B testing, but specifically if you're actively looking to move the needle on some specific desired action.
Okay, so actually as a follow-up question for you, Adam, what should publishers think about when they set up a specific test?
Sure, yeah, and you know, I think Jake would have had some interesting thoughts on this as well. But you know, as I mentioned yesterday, you should always think about what you're measuring. What exactly do you want users to be doing, and what are you testing to move the needle on that? So it's very important to understand exactly what metrics you should be looking at, so that you can tell if the test worked or not and which variation did better.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Katie, same question. When should publishers start thinking about A/B testing, and what should they think about when they actually set up the test?
Sure. So A/B testing is a great way of gathering data when you're not quite sure about which of the two ideas you might have is the most effective. So I would say that whenever you're not sure about a possible change that you want to make on your site or a brand new idea that you have, you could easily just set up two versions of the same thing and test it with real users so you can see what your audience likes, how they react to it, and the good thing is that you get quantitative data that will help you make your decisions of what you want to change. So there's never a good or a bad time. It's probably just whenever you want to go out and test different ideas.
Thanks, Katie. So we talk about A/B testing and how you can test something as small as an image's background color or the title you use in a blog post. So it sounds like at any given point in time, there's a million things you could be testing. With that in mind, I'd like to go to question 2 to help our viewers really understand the different types of ways you can use A/B testing to understand what's going on. Question 2, Can you tell us about a recent A/B test that you've ran to identify what your users specifically like? And in addition, can you tell us what elements were tested and what the impact has been? Adam, what do you think?
Sure. Yeah, sure. I've actually worked on a number of tests recently, some with Jake, some with others, but I think one that really illustrates this is with a site that's all about makeup reviews. So if you search a product on Google, CoverGirl lipstick, for instance, you could end up on this review page on this publisher site, and we actually tested the overall page. We created an entirely different version. We spent some time digging into the analytics, understanding what the users are doing, and what we noticed that there were a lot of people that were leaving right away. So it made us think that maybe the users were just not finding the information that they cared about, right? So we thought about it a little bit more and tried to understand why is a user there, and we got to the point that the user is trying to decide, should I buy this product or not? I know which product I'm looking at. Should I buy it or not? So we played around with the hierarchy of the page, and that's just basically can boil that down to what did the user look at first, second, third, etc. And really, what is the most important information for the user on the page? And in the original, there wasn't very well-defined hierarchy. It was everything was kind of all over the place. It was pretty cluttered. So we just cleaned that up a lot and made the rating and the percentage of people that would buy again the largest element on the page. So that basically just made it so that the users got the information that they needed, and they were able to just, that actually helped some users just click through to make a purchase, and that was another area we improved as well. We created, instead of having just some pictures and links for their affiliate deals, we actually created a where to buy section so that users could see where they could buy it and what price they would have to pay, and then we had a buy now button. And we saw by creating that where to buy section paired with the top level hierarchy item of the high level ratings, it created a nice flow and really increased their AdSense revenue and their affiliate revenue as well. So they were pretty thrilled.
Perfect. Thanks, Adam. And Katie, same question. Can you tell us about a recent A/B test that you've ran?
Yeah, sure. So I haven't run one myself, but I've worked closely with a publisher who has a website that provides advice to expats. And basically, when he first started, he was providing advice just for one location, one country. And as his website is mostly user-generated content, he started getting a lot of interest and a lot of information for other countries as well. So he thought a way to make that visible to his audience was to place an interactive map on the homepage, where in theory his assumption was that people could click on the country that they're interested in and find more information. Unfortunately, over time he realized that that was not the case. The click rate was very low, and we advised him to create a list with the main regions next to the map. So on the left-hand side of the home page, next to the map, you could see a list where basically there were regions that were hyperlinks, and the publisher went on and tested the two versions, basically what he had at the time as a home page, which was just the map, and the version with the links that we suggested. He did that over the period of 3 weeks, gathered the data, saw that the click rate has increased a lot, and made the change, and there's a 37% increase in the CTR now, so he's very happy with that change.
Great. Thanks, Katie. It's awesome to hear that A/B testing works for makeup sites and expat sites as well. So next question is, how long should an A/B test or experiment run before the data you collect really tells you anything? I know some of these responses can vary, but given your experience, what do you think? Let's start with Adam.
Sure, and I think I touched on this a little bit yesterday, but the main thing to think about is how much traffic do you have, right? The length of time that you let a test run depends on how much traffic you have to the page that you're testing, right? So if you are, the New York Times, you could run a test in a couple hours and get enough data to understand which one is performing better. But if you're, say a smaller publisher that doesn't have quite as much traffic, you might have to run it for, a couple of weeks to really get that data to be statistically significant. So yeah, I'd say it varies, but just a lot of the tools that exist actually tell you how much traffic to run. So they help you figure out when it's statistically significant. So that should help out as well.
All right. Thanks, Adam. I'm also willing to bet, the type of audiences you get on a Monday probably differs from the type of audience you'll get on a Saturday. Okay.
That's very true. So you should definitely, that's why it's worth it to run it over, say a week or 2 weeks, because it accounts for all of that.
Okay.
That's definitely very true.
Thanks, Adam. And Katie, same question. How long should I run my A/B test?
So yeah, I agree with what Adam is saying, and it's very much dependent also on what were the original goals that you had, what were the criteria that you set as you're planning your A/B testing. But on average, I've heard from other publishers that they run A/B testing for 2 to 3 weeks, and I guess it's very much also dependent on how much data do you need to be convinced of which way you want to go. So there's not a golden rule. It kind of like depends on what works best for each individual. And one thing to remember is that A/B testing can take place more than once. So it's not a one-off kind of opportunity to test. And you can always go back and test again at a different season, a different period with a different set of end users that you have as well.
Great. Thanks, Katie. So let's say I've decided to run an A/B test for X amount of time, and I've gotten X amount of data. And I've decided that it's time to implement the change. My next question is, what indicators should I be looking at to understand if the change to my site was successful? Adam, what do you typically recommend?
Sure. I mean, it really depends on what type of thing you're testing, right? That's why it's so important at the beginning to set clear and measurable goals for the test. So for this test, on my article page, I'm testing to see if we can get users to read another article, right? So we're testing the look and feel of the related article section, or the related content section, rather. And so then we'd want to test clicks on the related article section, right? Or we'd want to test how many people view more than one page, right? So a lot of A/B testing tools out there allow you to set up goals, click goals, page view goals, etc., to measure these type of things, and then split and show the results of each variation against those goals. And the cool thing about the content experiments built into analytics, Google Analytics, that I went over yesterday, is that you can use all of the same metrics that you already use in Google Analytics. So that could be events or goals, anything like that. You can see that on each variation, and that'll help you make a decision. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is just knowing which metric is important from the start.
Okay. Thanks, Adam. And Katie, same question. What indicators would you recommend publishers to look at?
So yeah, I mean, as Adam said, it's very much dependent on what were your original goals and what are the criteria that you set when you planned the A/B testing. But what I've seen on average from other people is that they look at things like, the level of engagement, how effective the proposed solution is, and the way that they measure that is looking at an increase in traffic, an increase in people that register on the site or click through a link that they want to test, and it's all about seeing a change in behavior. So depending on what was the original kind of goal that you had and what you wanted to test, it's whether you see a change, and and you know, the metrics that you use will help you justify whatever decision you make at the end and which solution it is that you want to go with.
All right. Thanks, Katie. So that's actually all the questions I have prepared for today's session. But before we go, I know A/B testing can seem a little bit daunting when you're not sure where to start. So I'd love to go around the room again and get, you know, that final piece of advice that you have for everyone tuning in. Adam, what do you think? Any final words?
Yeah, I would say, again, I'm going to reiterate what I said yesterday, but, you know, always measure everything and always be testing. You know, like, if you think you know your user's behavior pretty well, you know, it doesn't hurt to just test something out, you know, to test out a change to validate that understanding. Because the better you understand your users and the better you understand where you're making your money off of your AdSense ad units, the more that you can invest in those areas, and the quicker you will grow your audience and your site. So just continue to focus on delivering a great user experience, and you'll continue to see great growth from your site.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Katie, same question. Any final words of wisdom for our viewers?
I would just say that it's never, you know, the right time to do A/B testing apart from when you just want to go out there and explore kind of ideas. And to get those ideas, you could look at similar websites to the site that you've got, and you know, try and see why they are successful. What is it that they're doing right, and maybe get inspired about different things that you can test on your website. And don't be scared to just go and test. A/B testing is exactly, you know, for that reason, to allow you to explore, assess different options, and keep doing it. It's not something that, you know, you can do only once and never go back to do it again. It really helps. It will make your website much more user-friendly, and you'll be a step closer to meeting your end users' expectations and needs.
Great. Thanks, Katie. So that's the end of this session, but a couple reminders before we go. First, there won't be a Hangout on air tomorrow, but I definitely encourage you to take this off time to, you know, look at the Test Your Knowledge worksheet, or even set up a couple A/B tests of your own and really understand what you want to be looking at. If you have any questions, feel free to bring them to office hours in the Learn with Google for Publishers community on Friday from 11 to 11:30 Pacific time. One of the team members will be there to help answer any questions that you have. And second, don't forget to fill in the check-in survey that's available on the Google Plus event page right now in the details section, and let us know what you thought of this week's events. What did you like? What did you didn't like? Let us know what you want to see more of, and we'll definitely be reading those very soon. With that in mind, Adam and Katie, I just want to say one final thank you for joining us today, and for everyone else, I'll see you at office hours on Friday. Bye.
Bye.